Hey guys, editing Ness here. So, as I was editing this, I kind of realized that this video is full of mild spoilers, basically. So, if any of these books are something that you're looking to read with no spoilers, no nothing into it, I would just stop the video at this point, read them, and then come back if you want to know my opinion, because I talk a little bit more than maybe what's in the summary. So just a heads up, just a warning, but I did go ahead and if they were severe spoilers, I put time codes in the video, so just look out for those. Okay, back to the video. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ness, and today's video is gonna be my July wrap up. Or in other words, all the books I read in July. This July was actually a pretty good one for me. Normally, I'm either in a reading slump or I'm reading like a book every day, every 2 days for like a good week or two. This month was actually pretty good. If you see me looking over here, just know that I have my Goodreads pulled up because you're on my phone. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go over the books that I read this month. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on them, what I rated them, if I think you should read them or not. Let's get started. Okay, so it actually turns out that a lot of my books that I read, I guess I didn't own physically, which I think is so funny because I really thought before I filmed this video that I was gonna have blank spots in my bookshelf. Like, I read so many off my bookshelf. Girl, it's 2. So we're gonna start in order of what I read first this month. The first book that I read, please disregard the name. I was just looking for something spooky, okay? It is Suicide Forest, World's Scariest Places, book number 1, and it is from Jeremy Bates. And if you've heard Jeremy Bates before, that's because this book is all over Book Talk right now. It's The No End House. I heard great things about this, so I expected the author, Jeremy Bates, to have written fabulous stuff before. Guys, that is not the case with this book. This book was so bad. So I read this at the beginning of June, and for me, this was one of the worst books I've ever read in my life, which is crazy because I normally love a good scary book and it's set in a real scary place. There's a different take on it than like the movies or the stories. I love that. However, when I go into a book, I automatically assume it's written by a woman sometimes. And sometimes when you're reading that book, you just get a sentence out of nowhere that you're like, this was written by a man. And boy, did this book every step of the way remind me that it was written by a man. For instance, let me read you some of my review. So I gave this a 1.75 stars, which I think is the lowest or one of the lowest that I've given some of my books that I've read. So this book is basically about a guy who is a teacher from America. He moves to Japan with his fiance of like 4 years, and they are supposed to be going on this trip to a different mountain, but it gets rained out or something like that. And instead of waiting it out, this jackass in the group, because of course there's a jackass, of course, someone who wasn't expected to tag along in the first place, by the way. He's like, oh, you know what we should do? We should hike multiple hours into the suicide forest, and then we should camp there overnight. It's fine. You guys don't believe in ghost stories, right? So basically, the whole story is following them as they're going into the forest, as they're staying in the forest. People are dying. What is it? Is it the ghost of the forest? Yada, yada. Anyways, that's kind of the summary of that. So let me get back to this. So my first red flag that I noticed within the first 30 pages, he writes out the N-word, hard R, in a situation that has nothing to do with needing to say that out loud. So he literally has this character who doesn't really understand English, just starts saying the N-word as he's like singing a song. And I'm like, so you chose to write out that word for no reason, because you could have just been like, oh, he said the N-word or whatever it is. It's like, no. He wrote it out fully. And I remember that was the first thing that turned me off, because I was like, why did you need to say that? You weren't showing anything. You weren't showing a character's terribleness to then change it later on. You weren't showing racism. You weren't whatever. It was literally just a guy repeating a word. And I was like, you don't have to put that in your book. Anyways, that was my first red flag. Then this is the main reason why I remembered that this book was written by a man, because men just love writing books about sexualizing women, don't they? This book has nothing to do with sex at all. At all. It has nothing to do with it. Did this guy make sure to put weird fantasies or like weird sexual situations in this book? He sure did. He basically, this was so fucking weird. He'd be like in a monologue of thinking about his life before he came to Japan or whatever it is, and then he would snap back to the reality, and then he'd be like, man, isn't that other girl hot? I know she wants me. Like, I could have sex with her right now, and that makes me feel good because it's another woman saying I'm attractive and it's not just my girlfriend, and like I could have sex with her right now. And I was just like, we're in a forest and people are dying. Why are you, like, multiple times, because there's another girl in the group. It's like a tourist couple who like come with them. He's literally like, she's so hot. Oh, look at the way she's looking at me. She wants to have sex with me. And I'm like,
You have a girlfriend 15 feet that way. What the fuck are you doing? It was just so bad. But this book literally gave me the ick multiple times. So there's this scene where after all this crazy shit happens, people are dying. Him and his girlfriend go back to the tent, right? It is not a sexy situation whatsoever. Like, and let me preface this. I'm not a prude, okay? Hunting Adeline. I know ball, okay? All of a sudden, he's in the tent. They're scared. People are dying. And then it literally jumps to all of the sudden they're having sex, and this is the way that she looks, and this is the way I'm making her feel by what I'm doing to her. And I was just like, ugh. No, I had such a big ick. I was like, it has no place in this book, first of all. And second of all, that's how you're gonna write about sex? Like, it was really fucking weird. And I was just like, he's just writing about the way his character makes her feel because he's so good at what he does. And I'm like, if you have to say it, then you're not good. Anyways, the next thing I hated about this book was every other chapter was like, it felt like 70 pages of memories of his previous life in America. And I was like, this book should have been 150 pages max. This book is 371 pages on ebook. He just had chapter after chapter of memories and shit that literally does not matter. And it was taking away from the actual spook of the place and like what was going on. Like, it was totally taking you out of it. The pacing of the book was totally off. And the last thing I have to say about this book, which I feel like is a huge thing, by the way, is the ending. So because the Suicide Forest is such like a character in itself, and it has movies, it has other books, it has legends, it has stories, like all this stuff about what goes on in there. So I was interested. I was like, okay, a book, like it's probably gonna take it to a different place, right? I'm so interested in seeing the place that he took it. Spoiler. Here's the timestamp if you don't want to know the spoiler, but I don't think you should ever read this book, so whatever. What's happening in the forest, why people are dying, is not ghosts, not anything interesting or cool or like people stalking them because like, oh, this is their murder ground, whatever it is. No. There was basically a legend that this guy started living in the forest. It was very convoluted and weird. Basically, this one guy who's super strong and abandons everything to go live in the forest, in this forest, right? And everybody's like, oh, he's a myth, whatever. Well, apparently what he's been doing in this forest since 30 years or whatever it is, women who go into the forest, he is stalking them, kidnapping them, and R-wording them so that they get pregnant and have his babies so he can have a child tribe of wild children, wild men, whatever it is, that they can do his bidding, whatever he needs. When I tell you I got to that part in the book and I literally was like, this book, like he needs to go to jail for this book. I was like, this was so fucking bad. And I was like, what possesses you to even do that? And you know what's so interesting about the whole R-word plot, which I would say it because it's a very serious word, but I don't want to trigger anybody. The R-wording comes up multiple times in the book with no decorum. It literally would be like, you know, that girl who I was telling you about that he was like, oh, she finds me hot, I could have sex with her whenever I want. She tells him about the fact that she was in this taxi and this guy was creepy and he ends up doing this to her. The way that this man writes about something so horrific towards women, he does it too casually and he does it with no empathy. It was really bad. So the fact that he made his whole book ending surrounding basically R-word, jail time. Anyways, I am gonna read No End House because so many people have said it's good, and I really hope that there's nothing like that in there. I really hope that this guy has learned how to not traumatize women by throwing R-word in there for no reason. Anyways, my last thoughts. I fucking hate that book, and I hope that nobody ever reads it, at least no women, and this is why you need to check your trigger warnings, and I never do because I'm okay usually, but the way that this guy so cavalierly, I guess would be the word, just like sprinkles it into the story multiple times and makes it this person's backstory, and then the whole reason that this is happening, he throws it in there. I hate it. Absolutely not. Let's move on to the next book I read in July. The next book I read in July was From Below by Darcy Coates. Now, I read Gallows Hills by Darcy Coates, and I absolutely loved it. I read it last Halloween or so. It was so spooky. It was so scary. I loved her writing. There wasn't a lot of lag in the story, which I like, because I don't like when a book like just veers off and it totally changes the pace and it doesn't make it any better. So I was like, I love Gallows Hill so much. Let me read, because I was like, it's summertime. Like, I want to read spooky water stuff. So I was like, let's read From Below. From Below is a story that basically takes place in two timelines. One is the present day with a basically film crew where they find this shipwreck and they're so excited. They have this company backing them. They're going to go down there. They're going to film the inside of the ship. The ship goes down in this area of the ocean where there's no oxygen. So there's no sea life. There's no nothing. Nothing is moving. There's no oxygen, right? They're so excited because this ship has basically been untouched. That's going to be one point of view. So they're just excited. They're getting down there. The other point of view is actually the ship before it sank, the week before it sank. And I have to say, just right off the bat, everything that happened in the past POV fantastic. Like, if it was just that and we actually got to find out what happened at the end, that would have been like a 4.5-star read for me. However, the present POV is like 70% of the book, and 70% of the book is literally them. Everything is silt covered. The ship is silt covered. Look at this thing. It's covered in silt. And oh my God, look at this. It looks like it's been crashed through. And look at these things. It's like, blah, blah, blah. Literally 70% of the book is the exact same words said over and over and over again. And let me tell you, it is so fucking frustrating because this book, let me tell you, 470 pages, too long. A horror book should not be that long for the most part. Like, ever. And it really suffered because it was that long. If they would have cut down to like 250 pages, maybe 300, they could have had a fantastic story. It was just so disappointing that I was really hyping myself up for this, and then it didn't happen. But a quick little summary of what kind of happens in the book is that they start going down there. They start filming. In the present point of view, they dive down there. So they have 3 days to dive down and get as much footage as possible. So they go down there, it's like 300 feet below or something like that. Like, it's pitch dark, and they go down there, they start filming the ship. Some people are starting to feel like something's weird, something's up. Like, this is very weird. Like, we can't find any of the bodies. Like, the bodies aren't gone because there's no life here. No scavengers could come in. There's no bones, there's no whatever. And they're like, this is really, really weird. And they start catching strange things on camera when they bring it up at the end of the night to the ship. They start catching strange things, but yet every single day, no matter what is happening, they still go down there. Of course, that's the plot of a horror anything, right? So the whole plot is them going down, and each day it's getting a little bit like, what the fuck is going on here? I have no idea what's going on. Where are all the hundreds of people that were supposed to be on this ship that went down with the ship? What happened to the ship? In the past point of view, it's told from a sailor's point of view who is witnessing everything that's happening on the ship, and basically the things that are happening, he has no idea what's going on. There's no reasonable explanation for it. He is walking through the hallways and the lights are all gone, or there's only one more light left, and there's this fog on the ship that is suffocating. They can taste it, they can smell it. They have no idea what's going on. People are going missing every day. People are starting to go crazy. Like, people are jumping off things. You have no idea what's going on throughout the whole thing. And I'll be honest, I can't really spoil it for you because my last gripe with this book, I'm gonna go ahead and give a quick spoiler so you guys can kind of understand what I'm talking about. If you want to read this book, here's the timestamp to skip past the spoiler. Then when you read it, come back and see if you guys kind of agree with me, because you don't learn anything with the future point of view, like the present. You only learn stuff from the past, okay? So in the past, it's literally, they're hearing things in the walls. They're called like the others or something like that. And these people are starting to go crazy. There's one guy on the ship who kind of went crazy earlier than everybody else. And he's like, there's people in the walls. Do you hear them? And eventually it leads them to like a boiler room all the way in the bottom. The crazy guy starts digging at the wall. And what do they find in the wall? They find a burnt body of like, I think a little boy. They find this body and they're like, oh, this must be what is cursing the ship. He must have fallen in when the ship was being constructed, yada, yada, yada. When I tell you that is everything that they give you, that's everything that they give you. They don't tell you how the boy got in there. They don't tell you who the boy is. They don't tell you why he's haunting the ship. They don't tell you jack shit. And that really pissed me off because I was like, if you're going to make a horror book that's 470 pages long, you better make sure you have a satisfying ending, because I was so disappointed. I was like, great. And then in the future point of view, literally nothing happens. Like, they find all the bodies. The bodies are like reanimated since they're back there. They're literally stirring stuff up and they're breathing oxygen from their like oxygen tanks and stuff back into the water. So they're reanimating all the corpses, and then the corpses are coming back to life and they're literally drifting along the, like, that part was a little scary, I will admit. Like, if I was in a sunken ship and then I saw bloated bodies floating towards me, I'd be scared as fuck. But it was just so bad. It was so bad. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? You learn nothing. They literally escape at the end and they don't even learn anything. It's very frustrating. I did not like the ending whatsoever. So for me, I ended up giving the book a 3.75. Now, as I think back to it, I definitely gave it a little higher than I think I should have because I really enjoy Darcy Coates. Her writing style is great and I do really like her, so I gave her a little bit of a higher score, but the book was not good. It was too long, not scary, and shit just kept being said over and over again. It was very frustrating. So I recommend reading at your own risk. Honestly, now that I'm looking back, there are some books that I really didn't like this month. But speaking of a good one of the first books I ever bought on my reading journey, and this is going to be a video idea, so I'm not going to tell you all of them, was It Happened One Summer. Oh, I'm so stupid. Guys, I forgot about this one in my bookcase. It Happened One Summer. This is one of those books that I bought really early on in my reading journey, probably one of the first books I ever bought, because I was watching one of my favorite channels, which is Loranda Reads. Check them out here. I found them when they had like 300 subscribers, and that was when I started getting into books, and so I was looking for book people, found them, loved them. Friendship goals. But this was one of those books that they recommended that they had both gotten, I want to say for their early reading journeys as well. And I was super interested. I was like, okay, awesome. But anyways, so this book is basically Schitt's Creek sort of fan fiction a little bit. So the summary of this book is Piper, she is an influencer in LA. She drinks too much champagne and has an out of control rooftop party, and her stepfather decides enough is enough. So he cuts her off and sends her and her sister to learn responsibility running their late father's dive bar in Westport, Washington. It's just such a fun little romance story. She gets exiled to Washington. She is not used to it. She's used to Hollywood, LA, and she meets this big burly captain who's the captain because it's a fishing town. So she meets the captain of the fishing ship. This book was so cute. I have a different rating when it comes to romance books because for me, I give romance a little bit of an easier time because if I really like it, I'm gonna be like, this is a 4. And I did give this a 4-star. If I really like it, I'm gonna give it a 4. And for a normal, for a horror or a thriller, whatever it is, a 4 is really hard to come by for me. But a romance, if it's written right and there's no pregnancy tropes and there's no miscommunication or miscommunication that's not solved quickly because they're adults and they can handle it, I usually don't give it a good rating. But this one, so good. I can't believe I waited this long to read this book. I bought this book back in 2021 and I just read it this year, and I can't believe I waited so long. I think the reason why I had waited so long was because when you have a book for so long and it's highly anticipated, I think it just becomes a little bit more you're scared to read it because it's so anticipated. I'll just keep it on my shelf forever and someday I'll read it. And I was like, you know what? It happened one summer. It happened this summer. Yeah, this was awesome. This was so much fun. Honestly, if you just want a cute little romance where you can kind of lose yourself in it for a little bit, big burly guy. And you know what was so funny is that when this book first came out, I remember buying it and everyone being like, it's a smutty book, it's a whatever it is. Girl, there's maybe 1 or 2 scenes. Maybe. It's just a romance with maybe a steamy little whatever. That's it. It is not a smut book whatsoever. So if you are kind of intimidated by smut, this is a great one for you because it's just fun. And if you really don't like it, you can skip over it. It's literally nothing. So I highly recommend this for anyone who is just getting started into romance or a little bit of spice in your book. And honestly, just a fun little, I love a little small hometown sort of set thing. And this was perfect for that. I gave this one 4 stars. And I gave it a glowing review on Goodreads. The next one I read was another one where I was so excited to read it because I am in this summer ween. I want a spooky story and I want water involved. I want a summery spooky whatever, right? So again, I went to my girl, Darcy Coates, and I was like, hey girl, let me look at your whole book list and see what you got. Lucky for me at the time, she had another book called Dead Lake. The first story is 115 pages, nothing too crazy at all. I did like that the first story, because that one is called Dead Lake, Dead Lake is the main story. I liked that we got into it super quickly. It was spooky, whatever it was, but for me, it fell flat in the end. It was just a little bit too, oh, really? This isn't interesting at all. So I was a little disappointed by that. First story is actually going to be about a girl, and she goes to her uncle's cabin to kind of get some R&R, and also she's an aspiring artist who has this big collection coming up that people would die to be in. And ever since her mom died, she hasn't really been able to paint. She hasn't been able to make art of any kind. So she thinks going to this cabin in the middle of nowhere by this lake that she's going to be able to kind of get those gears turning again. So she goes, it's her uncle's cabin, she feels it's safe, and right away she wakes up and there's this figure by the lake because it's a house that you can oversee the lake. And she's like, that's really weird. No one's supposed to be here. It's off season. So after she sees this man, she's freaked out. She closes and locks all the doors. The next morning that she wakes up, she walks down to the living room and there's a canvas canvas with a scary dude painted on it. And she's like, this is my painting. Like, these are my strokes. Like, I have the paint on my hands. This is my painting. What do you mean I did this in my sleep? And basically throughout the story, every night she's there, she's waking up to more and more of these paintings, and they're telling a story, but we don't know what the story is. And then one night she's home alone and she only has the radio. So she turns the radio to the local station, and the guy there is telling a story about how, hey, this guy went missing with all his friends, and all his friends ended up dead. He's still missing. And all these years, people have just been missing and going missing and ending up dead. So she calls in and she's like, hey, what is happening? And so he gives her kind of the rundown. And basically the ending on this, I was not really impressed. Like, I was like, like I kind of saw this coming. And so I was a little like, oh, that's sad. But I liked that it started quickly and it ended quickly, which I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry that I wanted it to end quickly because it's a Darcy Coates. Like, I love her writing, but I just wasn't really feeling it. The last little bit is actually 4 more short stories. And those short stories are going to be Whose Woods Are These? Oh, the story is actually called The Hitchhiker, not Whose Woods Are These? I was not impressed. It was literally about a girl who breaks down while she's driving on this deserted desert road. She's heard these stories about not getting picked up by a hitchhiker, and basically she's walking on the side of the road and a truck comes up, and it's literally a Groundhog Day of her getting away from this truck and this guy. I'll just say this wasn't my favorite. I didn't like how it ended. I thought we were really going for some spooks. I really thought we were going to do something, and instead we literally have more questions than answers. I'm not impressed. The next story was actually called Mannequin. I actually liked this one. This one was about a guy who moves into his friend's basement. He has nothing. He's literally just sleeping on a mattress on a floor. And in this guy's basement, in the corner, he sees this like gray mannequin. He's like, that's really weird. So he goes over there, puts a little cover on it, and basically the whole story is him waking up and this thing has been moving. That's all I'm going to give you about that, because I really do actually like that short story. That one was fun. It almost felt like a 2-sentence horror story made into a short story. It was very interesting. I was actually kind of excited about that. So the short story, Whose Woods Are These? I actually liked this one. This was the one that I actually liked. This one was about a girl who is going camping in the woods that her family used to go camping in. She's walking up there. She's kind of having these memories of like the last time they were there, and her dad had gone off to collect wood or something and came back and was like, we need to leave right now. Shit just starts to go crazy. I actually want you guys to read this one, so I'm not going to give you too much more, but I will say that again, with a short story, like it ends like dun dun dun, like, oh my god, what happened? There's no conclusion really to these short stories, because that's just kind of how it is. So the last short story was actually called Bellamy. This one took me a little bit longer to read because at this point I was kind of like, like I'm not really feeling it anymore, but I actually liked this one as well. This one was very interesting. This one is about a girl who used to live in an orphanage with her brother, and she's going back to it. So the reason why she's going back is because she was there with her brother. She was the only one who ended up leaving, and that's kind of all we know when we go into it. She has this guilt that she's like, I need to go back. I need to see what happened, see if I can figure out what's going on. I need to atone for this because I feel so terrible that I left my brother. Honestly, I really enjoyed this one. The atmosphere is great. She goes into this, it's like an old asylum basically that they converted for orphans to kind of live there. So there was one lady who took care of the kids. Her name was Grace. She was young. She was always pictured as being like sick and frail. And then there was her mother, who is the one that all the kids are scared of. She's the one who's slamming her cane down as she's walking. People are scared. People are hiding from her. She goes back to figure out what happened to her brother and what happened to all those kids, because she realized as she's remembering her brother that every so often a new kid would appear in a new bed and they had no idea what was happening to those other children. So overall, I think this was a pretty good book. I think if people like Darcy Coates and if they like little spooky things, like these are really short stories. So if you're into that, I do think this will probably be for you. I think that I was just missing something from it. I kind of felt like, I get that short stories are short, but they still need to feel complete. And honestly, for the first part of the book being 115 pages and really it doesn't feel fully thought out, I was a little disappointed in that. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars, which is pretty standard for me. Like most thrillers, I'm going to give a 3.5 or a 3. So this was a pretty standard book for me. Again, I love her writing. There's just some stories that I don't really connect. This does happen to be one of them. But again, I was just super interested in this whole like spooky lake. It's Summerween. That's what I'm wanting. Overall, pretty good. A little tiny bit disappointed, but what can you do? The last book that I fully read this month, because we are going to get into one that I'm 3/4 of the way into. The last book that I fully read this month is Piranesi. I don't want to give you too much because I do think that this is a book for some people. Well, it's a book for everybody, but I think that this is a specific type of book that some people would really enjoy. So I don't want to give too much away. What I'll say, I'll read the back and not really give you too much, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. Piranesi's house is no ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, and its walls lined with thousands upon thousands of statues. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned, waves thunder up staircases, and rooms are flooded in an instant. But Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides, and he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. There is one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice a week and asks for help with research into the great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. This book, not my cup of tea. The one thing I was not really impressed with this book is the ending. I felt like the ending was a little bit, I felt like it was weak. I felt like we didn't really understand what was happening and why he ends up becoming this way. There wasn't an ending, and I get it. This is for some people. Like, this book is for some people and not for others. And unfortunately, this book isn't for me, only because I don't like endings that you don't tell me what the hell just happened. And that's what this book is. This book is really just a kind of a pondering book, I would say. And while some of it is super interesting, I'm like, how did this win awards? So this was my book club book for July with a couple of my acquaintances and friends that I actually met at a Barnes & Noble. So funny, by the way. Some of them liked it. Actually, there was only 3 of us there that day. But 2 of us were kind of, and one of us gave it a 5-star. And I really think it just kind of depends on the person and like what you like to read, and are you more of a speculative reader? I really think this is a good book on isolation and how you can't always trust your mind. Also, just like, I think it's a fabulous book. It's just not my cup of tea. So I did give it a 3.5. I just feel like we were missing some connection and some things going on. I think it was a good book, but it just wasn't for me. I do believe that everybody should read this book because I think this could resonate with a lot of people. So I really think it's good for everybody to read, but then I think some people just aren't super into it. So that's the last one that I fully read this month. The last book that I am currently working on, and you know what? We have a couple more days in July, so I'm gonna count this one as it'll be done by the end of July. This was a book for one of my other book clubs. I'm a person, you guys will see this. I love romance. I love dark romance. I love all the books. I love the horrors. I love the thrillers. I love the sci-fis. I love everything. I do love me a good dark romance book. And trust and believe, this book is that. So the book that I am going to end July off with is Den of Vipers. I know. I can't believe I haven't read it yet either. It's literally all over Book Talk. So many people have read it. Let me preface this. On Kindle, this book is 650 pages. Since when does a dark romance book or a smut book in general need to be 650 pages long? It does not. I am only on page 400. That sounds crazy coming out of my mouth. Only 400. It's not great. It's okay. Let me give you a little premise. Den of Vipers is about a girl who is working in a dive bar that she owns, and basically she's had a crap father. Her father sells her to pay off his debt to the Viper clan, basically like the mafia. He sells her off to them to pay off his debt. Father of the year. So I'm 400 pages in. I should know what the fuck this story is about, right? The story is just kind of like a dark romance where she goes to their house and there's a constant push and pull, and they're trying to figure out if they like her, if they love her. Is she gonna stay forever? Is she part of the Viper clan? It's a basic book. I'm gonna give it that. This whole time I was really working this up in my head. It's a little basic. Like, I am excited. There's some really good parts where I'm like, oh, I like, you know, how she's breaking down their walls. So I like that aspect. I like her coming in and like disrupting their life and kind of teaching them empathy or whatever, because all of these guys are people who have been through the worst of the worst. So of course now they're the worst of the worst. The one thing that I'm not super happy about is that, and this is like to each their own, I've just kind of realized that if I read a dark romance where the FMC is into the stuff that the like psychotic crazy guy is doing to bad people, if they're into that and that happens to her and they make it like a whole sexy scene, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. There's no, you're crazy and you can do that to other people and I'm okay with that. I'm chill and cool because they're bad people, because they only mess with bad people, of course. When you bring in the FMC and she's into that and into all the stuff that he does to the bad people, I couldn't. I think it's fun. I love reading these types of books. When they get a little crazy like that, that's not me. And I have 200 more pages left. And I'm like, where else can this story go? I don't want to give too much away because it's literally just like, think of any dark mafia romance. That's what's happening. So we'll see what I end up giving that. If I don't post this before I finish it, I'll insert a little clip here of like my final thoughts about it. Guys, I just finished reading the last 250 pages of this book.
It wasn't it, guys. It wasn't it. I ended up giving this book a 3-star on my Goodreads, and it deserves that. To me, the writing was kind of and the plot didn't even matter to the story. And look, I'm not here always for a plot when it's a smut book, but this is supposed to be like an actual dark romance book. It's supposed to have like stakes and stuff like that, and like a plot and what's going on. And while it didn't really matter to the story. Like, even if I told you, it wouldn't spoil anything. It's the exact fucking same as every other mafia dark romance that there is. Like, there's some kidnapping, there's some, oh, you're evil, oh, you're not evil. It's a basic book. On top of that, and something I've already harped on, is that it's 650 pages on ebook. Way too fucking long. Way too fucking long. This book could have been good at 250, 300 pages, maybe. If like all the other stuff that I didn't like about it wasn't there, but too long. They like ended the conflict 80% of the way through, and then they just added more stuff on about the characters and all this stuff, and it was, honestly, it was an incredibly boring book, and at the same time had a whole lot of torture in it. I did have to skip some stuff because I was like, okay, I don't really need to know about all that. Like, of course, if there's gonna be bad guys, there's gonna be torturing, like whatever, but like torture the bad guys. This book, there's a lot of torturing the FMC for like funsies and like pleasure, and she's into it. And because I don't want any of that, I did not enjoy this book. I did not enjoy her inner monologue. I did not enjoy anything about her. And also, the last fucking 10 pages of the book are like preachy in a way of like, I felt like I was reading a self-help book at the end. I was just like, can you just end it after they have sex? Like, what the fuck are you still talking about? I was given the ick as I was reading these last 10 pages. I was just like, oh, it was like, love is all that you need in this world, and oh, I'm broken, and they love me, and I'm like, I came here expecting a dark romance book, okay? Anyways, so too long, didn't love the ending, didn't love the torture parts, and honestly, sex scenes were okay. They were written kind of basically, and honestly, I think the term I would use to kind of recap this whole book is overhyped. Like I said term, but I meant terms. So overhyped, boring, basic, and do not read. It wasn't terrible by any means, but it wasn't great, and it wasn't even good enough for me to recommend this to anybody, I don't think. Okay guys, that's the end of my thoughts for Den of Vipers. Let's get back to me.
This video went on way longer than I was thinking because I just had so much to say and I haven't really narrowed in what I want to say about books yet. So pretty soon I'll have out my next video, which is going to be my August TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching my July wrap-up video today. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or you want to see any videos from me, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Can I bring this any closer? Come here, come here. My computer's kind of dead, so I had her all the way over there on the floor. Why is there a hair touching me? And then coming back and being like, what the fuck just flew at me? What the fuck was that? Guys, I'm scared. Literally something flew at me. What the fuck? So this was my book club look